Yeah. Do. Okay. Little early today. I know, GPEG84, I know. Just kidding. GPEG84 didn't say anything. But he would be the one to say, hey, hold on, when is this stream? We don't stream at the same time anymore every day because I'm a human being. So sometimes I gotta go a little earlier. Sometimes I go a little later. Sometimes people like Rob Collins get here earlier than they think. Right? I know, Clinton. I know. I'm trying to convince you I'm human. It's not real. It's not going to go down well. Oh, look there. Let me show myself. How's everybody doing today? Trying to keep you on your toes. Yeah, it's rainy here, so I have to leave myself a little extra time to go do some things. And then I realized, like, oh, I'm sitting at my desk. I have now done everything to prepare for the show, to get it ready. Why wait? Why sit around? It would be unproductive for me to just sit here and go like, well, I guess I can just play this game on my phone or check my email, you know? Is there DNA proof that you're human? Ask 23andMe. Fasting? Fat. What do you mean by that, G. James B? I'm definitely not fasting. I just had a lovely lunch. I had an apple and, say it with me, sardines and rice. It was really good. I like it, okay? If I live to be 1,000 years old, I will attribute it to the sardines. Oh, G. James B is fasting, and here I am rubbing my delicious lunch in your face. I apologize. Good luck on your colonoscopy tomorrow. Never any fun. Colonoscopy would be better with bacon, Zoe. You're right. Moose doesn't think that's a human lunch. Obviously an AI. I hallucinated that lunch. So I thought it'd be fun. I actually left all the tabs open from this morning's DTNS. Hey, Conrad. Is there any unproductive thing that you regularly do? Yeah, I watch television and play games on my phone. That's about it. Even when I read, I'm reading something for a show. So I thought I'd do this thing today where I would leave all of the tabs open of the stories I didn't use on DTNS. And then we could talk about, well, why, Tom? Why didn't you use them on DTNS? I don't think that's the right window, though. Hold on. Stop screen. I don't know why that window was showing up. That's the wrong one. Okay. I was just showing me the wrong preview. So here they are. All the tabs that were too hot for DTNS. I don't play a lot of games on my computer anymore, Rob. With that lunch, you can't be human. Still makes me laugh, Moose. I'm sorry. Yeah. I do play some, not very much. Hey, Ambassador Domo. So, ChatGPT huge in India. These locally focused startups found a way to compete. This is a really interesting story. 2 reasons I didn't cover it. 1, I didn't have enough time to really read and comprehend it properly. And 2, with the time I did have to read it, I didn't understand how to make it into a news story. So when I want to put it in DTNS, I want to tell you this is happening, and here's why I'm telling you about it. I can make it be, there's an interesting article you should read, but then it better be interesting, you know? If I'm going to put it in a news show and say, the news today is Rest of World posted an article, here's why that's news versus everybody else's articles that got published today. There is something really interesting in here about local companies making generative models in local languages. India has more than 1,600 languages, says Rest of World. And so you're not going to get OpenAI or anybody else catering to all of those. They're going to go at the most popular ones. They're going to go at Hindi, Tamil, Kannada. They are not going to go to the other 1,600 or 1,596 languages. So you get a lot of low resource languages like Tulu, Bodo, Kashmiri, and you have smaller startups going after them. Tulu AI holds storytelling sessions and workshops in rural areas, and they are gathering participants to voluntarily record and label data in Tulu so that they can make a Tulu model. The startup also collects WhatsApp voice notes from anyone who wishes to send one. These, again, it's all voluntary. Major translation tools miss the context that gives meaning to the words. I don't know. This is a really interesting story. But like I said, I didn't get all the way to the end, and I kind of avoid really trying to talk with authority about something if I haven't read it all the way through, right? Hey, PC Milesy, thank you for the bits. And I also just was like, I mean, this is a great story. It'd make a great discussion. Maybe I'll hold on to it for DTNS Live. Maybe I'll talk about it on office hours, which I am. But I don't know that it was news. I'm gonna close these tabs. I've marked it elsewhere, so don't worry. I'm going to close these tabs as I talk about them. Goodbye. This Wired article, Fiji Simo, really interesting context here, talking about Fiji Simo trying to do what she has done when she was head of the Facebook app, when she ran Instacart for OpenAI. A lot of really interesting context in here about how she is seen in Silicon Valley as somebody who just works hard, really understands the customer experience with apps, and has proven that multiple times running the Facebook app, running Instacart, which, for whatever you think of the Facebook app now, at the time that she ran it, I think it was, rocking along at the top of its game. And Instacart is well reviewed, well regarded these days. So just it's kind of a deep dive into that. I couldn't figure out a way to turn this into a news story though. It's like Fiji Simo is interesting, is the news. And it's like, well, okay. I almost put it in as an interesting read. I used to do those more often earlier in the year. Like, hey, and if you are if you're looking for an interesting read, Wired's got a profile on Fiji Simo with an interview with her. If I had fewer things that I wanted to put in the show today, I probably would have done it. But this was towards the end of my list, and it was one of those things like, I've got a dozen quick stories to tell people about. That's a lot to make them pay attention to. So this one fell off. House of Films says, related to that ChatGPT in India story, Search Engine Land has one titled "Translated Sites See 327% More Visibility in AI Overviews." That's intriguing. It's very intriguing. Anyway, good article. Well done, Wired. Good job, Zoe Schiffer. I often, when I'm saying Wired did a great article, it's Zoe Schiffer who wrote it. Just saying. On my list of all-stars. Go read it. Goodbye. Engadget. This one, kind of the same thing as the Wired story, which was, I almost put it in as a like, hey, you might want to read this theory. It made it into our subreddit and people were trashing it. And I'm like, it could also be a FUD buster where I say like, I don't think this is saying what you think it's saying, kind of thing. A lot of times I do that. I look at what the subreddit reactions are, and then I try to look for things that people are misunderstanding or inaccurately representing, and then explain that on the show as sort of a counter to like, hey, if you're saying this, that's not exactly right. What Engadget is saying here, Igor Bonifacek is saying, is that one of the things that could hold back or is holding, let me try to characterize this correctly. One of the things that is holding back games from appearing on SteamOS is the difficulty of making anti-cheat for Linux, and that balanced with the number of Linux users, right? So it's a complicated argument, but I think it's a really good one, which is if I'm a developer and I want to bring, what's one of the ones that he mentions is people really wanting, Rainbow Six Siege. I want to bring Rainbow Six Siege over. I am not, as a game developer, going to bring that to a platform where I can't properly implement anti-cheat, because then it's unfair, because you got a bunch of people cheating on one platform and not cheating on the other platform. So you need to have reasonable anti-cheat. And it is difficult because of the way the Linux kernel is open to make that work. I think a lot of people in the Reddit platform were responding like, that's the benefit of Linux, is it doesn't, boss me around. Basically, it lets me cheat. But I'm like, I don't think that was really it. It was more like, we can do it. It's just the Linux kernel being so open makes it more complicated, makes it more difficult to do. Not impossible, just makes it more difficult to catch cheaters. And to do it properly would take extra engineering resources, not only just engineering resources to do it, but extra engineering resources, because this is a slightly thornier problem than other platforms. And when you look at the number of people gaming on Linux, it's like we're spending a lot of money that's going after very few people who are buying the games. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? Everybody faces this. At a certain point, you have to say, which platforms are we going to support? Because in theory, there's an infinite number of platforms out there, right? Like there's small and smaller OSs where you could be like, well, should we support Unix? Should most of them are Linux derivatives, I guess. But like at a certain point, you're like, we're just not going to try to support that because there's 2 people playing on it. Well, there's more than 2 people playing on Linux, but is it enough? It's near that line. And then what Igor makes the point is SteamOS on Steam Deck has raised that conversation more, but it hasn't raised the level of playing enough for a Rainbow Six or a Fortnite to say, you know what, we got to spend the money. We're leaving money on the table here. We're not supporting folks. So what Igor, and this is where I think a lot of people were misunderstanding that, because they were going to like, I prefer it. This is a bunch of BS. It's because Microsoft. What Igor was saying was, if Steam machines take off, which are essentially desktop machines that you hook up to a television, that could bring the number of gamers up high enough that these companies go, okay, fine, we will make this anti-cheat for SteamOS. It may not work on the other Linux distros. It might. And if it doesn't, we won't support it. But we have a critical mass on SteamOS, so we know we can target that. We can develop for that. Kind of the way companies will make apps for Android, but that doesn't mean they make it for every AOSP based phone out there, right? They make it for Google Android because they know they can make it work for that. Rob adds, I've heard that some anti-cheat software can run on Linux, but the devs have to enable it manually because it doesn't come on by default. Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of stuff where it's like, oh, okay, but there's got to be a workaround that would make that work. If Steam gets a lot more people using their platforms, then that might make sense. Exactly, Stoic. I think you anticipated the argument there. So I thought this was a really interesting article that was basically saying we are definitely not there yet. For the Steam machine to change PC gaming, Valve must solve Linux anti-cheat problem is the headline. But I almost feel like it would just be as accurate to say Steam machine has a chance to solve Linux's anti-cheat problem and make it so that companies will support this. Now, SteamOS also, just, so we're not leaving that for people who don't understand, will be able to support other platforms than Linux. Through emulation and through, it's not always emulation, but there are other ways around it. So even if a company doesn't make a game for Linux, it will be able to run some of those games. Brian says, I'm not sure anti-cheat on Linux makes sense at all. It's too easy to recompile the kernel to make it a visible cheat. I mean, that's kind of the thing, right? It's a challenge that I'm sure some developer would love to go at, of like, well, you can recompile the kernel to make an invisible cheat, but how many people are actually going to do that? And could it catch on? And how do we guard against that? I bet we can come up with a system. It's much easier to say, oh, well, we can make one for SteamOS that will work and keep it working there. And if somebody recompiles the kernel on Linux somewhere else, then we'll shut off those games, right? But it's this kind of stuff. Brian's absolutely right. It's this kind of stuff that makes it complicated. It's not easy. Because you could say like, well, what if people recompile the kernel? What if people create versions that identify themselves as SteamOS? There's all kinds of things you can do that make it complicated. Doesn't mean it's impossible. I think we often tend to go too far that way of like, well, it's really hard. Who could possibly defend against recompiling the kernel? And it's like, somebody can. There's always a way to figure out something, or at least make it so difficult that it reduces the number of people who will take advantage of it to close to zero, so that the game company is like, all right, fine. That's not going to be done by a lot of people. Yes, I'm early, Nick with the C. I thought it would be GPEG who would say it, but it was you. At the top of the show, I mentioned that I'm just going to start doing these office hours around the same time every day, but I'm not going to sit here when I'm ready to go and just be like, oh, I have to wait for the artificial time. So apologies for that, because I know that will throw some people off. Anyway, back to this. I didn't end up putting this in the show because, as you can tell, it's a nice, long, complex issue that's hard to summarize. And so it fell into the same category as the Wired article, which is nice read. I guess the Rest of World article could have been that too. Nice read. Here it is. And by the time I got to the nice read section, I had so many other things in the show that I was like, I'll leave these for other places, like office hours. Well, this one actually made it in the show. I guess I just forgot to close the tab. Did you hear about a bunch of fans are trying to have reverse engineered the server for Concord, Sony's huge flop, and they're making it work? All right, that's just the feeds. Chinese investors shifting focus from AI chip makers to companies in power, metals, and infrastructure amid concerns over high valuations in AI stocks. So I thought, oh, this might be an interesting piece of evidence about whether we're in a bubble or not, right? So we started to have investors started to get some cold feet this weekend. For anyone who doesn't know, my opinion has been we are in a bubble. It's just a matter of when it will start to deflate and who goes down with it. Not, it will be a disaster and end development of AI, because the internet was also a huge bubble, the dot-com bubble, and it burst. And you know what companies were in the dot-com bubble? Amazon, Google, Netflix. So it's not like your bubble pops and then everything goes away and you have to start over from scratch. It usually leaves the winners behind. That's how you tell who the winners are. Anyway, so I was like, oh, well, maybe this will tell us if we're closer to a bubble, or if this cold feed over the weekend is just a sign of people reacting to news and the talk about the bubble. Turns out when I read this, I kind of get the idea that investors are diversifying their portfolio, which frankly is not really news. China's energy stock index rose 10% in October. Bank of America analysts said China's well-positioned in infrastructure. I mean, Chinese investors also might be moving away from chips because they don't want to be investing in NVIDIA right now, with the government kind of looking down their nose at foreign companies. And the company, and it does, I was also wondering if this would tell me like, oh, they're losing faith in the domestic chip market, but it doesn't really tell me that either. It actually seems to think like, oh, the infrastructure is pretty good. We don't need to invest in that. If anything, this just tells me Chinese investors think we've invested enough in AI infrastructure, which a lot of other people have been saying too. So I in the end, I was like, this is dog bites man. It's not that interesting. I mean, I'm not picking on Tech in Asia for covering it, because this is what they do. And this was a report that was released. And for them, it's kind of like a, hey, let's confirm that what you think is true kind of story. Yeah. And Nick with the C points out, with power usage of AI projected to be what it's going to be, it makes sense to move to investing in power generation for sure. Sky Sports killed off its female-focused Halo brand. This is not Halo the game. This is they tried to make a TikTok for women. From what I can tell, they didn't have any women running it. It lasted 3 days and then just went down in flames because nobody liked it. So in the end, I didn't cover this because I'm like, this just seems like somebody tried a thing that didn't work and we didn't learn much out of it. If they had been like, this was expected to succeed, or it was unquestionably made by women and yet they got it wrong, and it was really interesting why they got it wrong, then maybe. But turns out it looks like people just kind of did a bad job at Sky Sports. Barbification of its sports coverage. Yeah, nobody liked it. They were just doing stupid stuff like hot girl walks and matcha. Nothing wrong with matcha, but it's one of those like hello fellow teenagers kinds of feelings to it, if you ask me. All right. I have feeds in here twice. And then this one, I'm still kicking around. How much of the AI data center boom will be powered by renewable energy? It's TechCrunch's Equity podcast. I actually kept this in my tabs because I was thinking about whether I could get some good guest ideas out of this. But it's also a really good listen. And they have the transcript here, and they talk about the fact that, who is this? Kirsten Korosek saying, one of the upsides could be the companies doing interesting things about renewables for data center design. Kirsten talks about an energy place in Redwood called Redwood Materials, doing Redwood Energy, where they take old EV batteries that aren't quite ready to be recycled, but they're getting pulled out of EVs to be replaced with nice fresh batteries, and creating microgrids out of the EV batteries. So you're reusing, you're providing power, and they're specifically going after AI data centers to say, we can use this to power your data center. Are more companies going to do this? That's the question Kirsten had. Felt like Kirsten was the only mildly optimistic person on this panel, but I was like, maybe I should get Kirsten Korosek to come on and talk about it. But then Kirsten talks specifically about Tim DeChant's coverage, and I'm like, oh, well, he's the climate tech reporter for TechCrunch. Maybe I should reach out to him. Anyway, this ended up being there's nothing, this is their podcast, so I don't tend to want to put... unless it's like a single topic thing, but like great discussion on the Equity podcast. I don't know. Maybe I should. If I'm going to do it for stories, I could do it for podcasts. There's not a thing to point at on this one other than like, hey, they had a great episode where they talked about data centers and oil, which is true. Go listen to that podcast because it is a good episode. Anyway, there you go. Those are the stories that were too controversial and why I didn't include them. I might do this from time to time. Let me know if you like this one, because I think a lot of people often say, what about the stories that don't make the show? Can you make a show about that? And this was 20 minutes of me making a show about that. You can see it's not particularly going to be compelling as a show itself. It's sort of a like, here's the stories that weren't quite compelling enough. That's not going to drive a good show, but explaining why, maybe that's more interesting to you. All right, let's check the news. Since the last time I checked it, NetChoice sues Virginia to block its one. Oh, NetChoice is the one that always gets involved in these legal cases about social media moderation and blocks and threats to the safe harbor and stuff. They were involved in Florida and in Texas. Virginia's governor signed SB 854 into law in May, set to go into effect January 1st. Social media platforms will have to prevent kids under 16 from using the sites more than 1 hour every day unless they receive permission from their parents. And NetChoice is suing. What are they saying? Asked the court to block the law over claims it violates the First Amendment by putting unlawful barriers on how and when all Virginians can access free speech online. They're saying the time limit doesn't have a basis, what it sounds like to me, doesn't have a basis in science, and so it's an arbitrary limit on someone younger than 16 from accessing. It's not limiting based on content. It's not saying, this content is inappropriate. They're just saying you just can't access it at all. And I think what NetChoice is going to argue is like, that's the job of the parents, not the job of the state, to decide how much or how often their children consume media. And otherwise, it is the government making a law abridging the freedom to consume information. That's interesting. Okay, I'm going to mark that one for DTNS, maybe. Meta releases a new tool to protect Reels creators from having their work stolen. Content protection tool. If the creator is alerted that someone else is using the Reels, they'll also have the ability to block. Oh, so it's like Content ID, but for Reels. Yeah, that never goes wrong. That never just punishes the people who are trying to play by the rules and everybody else figures out a way around it. Am I being too cynical? Possibly. Blocking Tylenol ads. Okay. Wall Street falls 1%. Investors brace for job data. Amazon selling some bonds. Sabrina Carpenter was in LA. I did not go to the show. I would have enjoyed it though. Just had to go celebrate my niece's 9th birthday. 9. The no birthday. 9. I've now seen 2 movies with a credit against AI training on them. Megan 2.0 and Nobody 2. Interesting, G. James B. Yeah, Clinton, that is a great question. Which is worse, an AI support chat or a human support chat where nobody responds after 30 minutes? I don't know if she would have loved to see Sabrina Carpenter. She loves music. She loves like Islet and K-pop Demon Hunters. I don't know if she would have liked to see Sabrina Carpenter. I bet at some point she will get old enough where she would love to see Sabrina Carpenter. But sadly, we were also not in Los Angeles where Sabrina Carpenter was. So it wouldn't have worked out anyway. Oh, Clinton's like, I'm naming names. This is the company that I am on hold with for more than 30 minutes. Okay, Apple to change designs and release schedules. That was actually the big story on DTNS today. Facebook rolls out the tools. We just talked about that. Why do they do this? Is the new trend. Cardinals, $87 million star, notably absent from trade rumors. But they don't tell me which one they're talking about. And I can figure it out. But yeah. I hate it. So who are they? Who's the $87 million star? I'm trying to find it. They're trying to see fits. Well, is the fact Wilson Contreras is paragraph 12. That's just an abuse of power. All right. Implementing Rust. The case for Reddit. I feel like the case for Reddit has been made. Oh, did we get a trailer? Would take place in this new trailer. Okay. I'm going to be working on the Cord Killers lineup later. So new trailer for Fallout Season 2. Belgium buys drones. Okay. Good for Belgium. Sinclair pursues a deal to consolidate TV stations. They're going to have to get a special exemption for that. That's one of the things we talked about in the whole Jimmy Kimmel stuff is the Sinclair group and others trying to want to get exemptions for mergers so they can own a larger concentration of local TV stations. Criterion sets February release for Network, The Man Who Wasn't There. And others. Mid-season premiere dates. Widely used chart makes the clean energy switch seem much harder than it actually is. Raccoons are showing early signs of domestication? Hold on. City-dwelling raccoons seem to be evolving a shorter snout, a telltale feature of pets and other domesticated animals. So comfortable in human environments, physically changing in response to life around humans, an early step in domestication. It was a very early step, but still. Do not make a raccoon your pet yet. Proto-dogs would have dug through human trash heaps, and cats were attracted to mice that gathered around refuse. Over time, individual animals that had a reduced fight or flight response could feed more successfully. In 100 years, people are going to have raccoons as pets. I can tell. Europe joins the top exascale computers with the Euro HPC Jupiter. Congratulations, Europe. You did it. Azure hit by 15 terabit per second DDoS using 500,000 IP addresses. That's a lot. That kind of stuff just happens now. The scale is ridiculous. Boy, I have a lot of stuff in here, don't I? MLS calendar change, one of the league's most important decisions. Raducanu pulls out of U.S. match with foot issue. DeepMind releases new weather forecasting. We had that in the DTNS. Okay, there we are. We are caught up. Woo. A lot of news. City raccoons different from rural raccoons. Hey, Laminar Rainbow. How's it going? Well, there you go. That's the rest of the story. Adam wants raccoons as farm animals. Get them working for us. What would a raccoon be good at doing on the farm? Clean up trash, I guess. Digging. Weeding. Could you get the raccoon? Could you teach a raccoon to do some weeding? You know, go through the rows. I don't know. There's something there. There's something there. I can tell. I can smell it. Oh, we got Etherpunk, David, Warren, Adam, James. Good folks. Shaquille O'Neal to lend boost to Warner's Dunkman basketball competition. Oh, Shaq. Did you see Snoop Dogg join Sora? That was last week, but very interesting. Oh my gosh, I have to show you all this. Let me see if I can find. I don't know what platform this is. Somebody just sent me. Allison Sheridan sent me this screenshot. I guess I could do. I can do it this way. I have to end that screen and start this screen, but. This is, you're going to like this. This is funny. Wait, does that window not show up? Oh, no, there it is. Why is the save button in Excel depicted as a vending machine with a purchased drink can at the bottom? This question is currently being discussed by young Japanese people on a forum. Allison, thank you so much for sending this. So if you're not looking at the video, imagine, the little floppy disk icon with the big white square at the top, and then there's a little bottom square. And if you remember, the bottom square is the part that slides out to let the read head see the disk, and it looks like a white square with a little purple or black or whatever color the icon is can at the bottom. This is amazing. I showed this to Eileen. It's like, it's been that way for a while. Did they just notice? I'm like, I guess so. They're young people. They're just starting out in computers and they're like, what is this? What is this? I've heard this save icon called weird things before for people who just don't understand floppy disks, but, or, who've never had experience with them. But the vending machine with a purchased drink can at the bottom is beautiful, which made me wonder. Well, made me wonder two things. Do I have a floppy disk down there? I'm pretty sure I have one somewhere. I see CD-ROMs. I thought I had a thing of floppy disks over there. Anyway, it made me wonder, what should the save icon be? If we were to, this is not me advocating changing the save icon, but were we to make it so that it actually made sense? Because I thought about this right now. When I started using computers, the save icon made sense. You looked at it and you said, oh, that's a floppy disk, right? The joke at the time was older people didn't understand it was the new 3.5 floppy disk instead of a 5 1/4 disk. But it's a floppy disk. I get it. That's where I save things because I know how to use a computer. Well, these days it doesn't read as that because nobody uses floppy disks. Nobody does. You might remember what they are, but it doesn't have that natural skeuomorphic read. Terror Skull says, I support this description. G. James B. Novelty vending machine idea. Stoic Squirrel, I don't like change. So, okay, Rob says the down arrow download icon. That way you know it's saved locally. But how do you distinguish that from downloading? You're already using that for downloads. So now it means two things. That could be confusing. Stealth Dave says, the fact that Tom does not have a floppy disk within reach really emphasizes how out of date that icon really is. I mean, but it doesn't mean the same thing. Download and save are not, they overlap. A bag of money. Document with a pen in hand. Like you're writing it down. It's not bad. I don't think downloading and saving are the same. I don't know that works for both. Maybe it does. But I think if you put the down arrow, people would think, oh, well, I don't want to download something into my document. Like it's not 100% bulletproof, can't misunderstand it, the way the save icon was, a VHS icon. Oh, Terror Skull says download icon with a cloud at the top. Brain icon for remembering. That's not bad. Document into a folder. Starts to get a little complicated at that size, but maybe. Yeah. A safe, Larry in Atlanta suggests. Yeah, that's not bad. When you work in the cloud, how do you save to the cloud? It saves automatically all the time. Sure, you're uploading then, right? When you're saving to the cloud. Can we shrink down a fireman rescuing a kitten to icon size? I suggested to Allison it should be a USB stick or a skeuomorphic solid state drive. Like what the chips look on the DIMM. I mean, the download icon, I totally get why that makes sense, but it would be confusing, especially when it's like, well, I'm saving this to Dropbox. Am I downloading it? No, I'm uploading it. I like the paper with the pen. Safe's not bad. Lock with a file behind it. Not, and the brain's not bad. So true, Larry. The cloud is just a computer in someone else's house or data center. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Tara says the paper with pen and pencils used for edit. So that's probably confusing as well. Autosave has already almost made the save icon obsolete. That's a good point. I actually tend to save by going to File Save when I need to save anyway. A lot of times I save by pressing close and it goes, would you like to save this before you close? A connected fist bump. That's good. Down or arrow to a brain or a safe. Again, it starts to get complicated, but I like the concept. Make it a superhero because it's saving the day. Just keep using the floppy icon and just say, it means save your document. Control S, baby. Yeah, you could just do S, A, and then the second row, V, E. That might actually be the best one. Just, except for various languages. But people, those kind of commands are kind of cross-language now. Like, okay, right? I like it, though. I like it. These are some good ideas. But yeah, we've gone from people going like, what is that icon, to like speculating on like, it must be a vending machine then. Yeah, we still call it dialing a phone. You're right. G. James B. We still call it an album. That's my favorite. I gotta pull down. I have to find a floppy now. Where are my floppy? You know what I actually have? I actually have a hard drive, but not a floppy. I actually know I have floppies in that box, but that box is under my Netgear switch, so I don't feel like moving it. Could have sworn. Oh, wait a minute. Is there a floppy in here? Yes, there is. In my IBM Disk Valet, I have a copy of New Year 2000. That's why I keep the Disk Valet around. This came free with my IBM PS2 3286. Okay, so the other thing I need to get, I have an actual album of 78s. Hold, please. I'm not leaving. That's just hold music. I got better hold music. Hold on. Where's my better hold music? I have the daily music headphones. That's award show music. There we go. That's good. This is gonna put. This is gonna put Clinton into conniptions because he's actually on hold. Girl from Ipanema. All right, let's see if I can get my actual album. Hold, please. Your viewing is very important to me. Please stay online. The next available live stream host will be with you shortly. Okay. This is an album. This is an actual album of Christmas carols. And an album is just a collection of things, right? But this is a record album. So it's got 78s. See? It's got multiple 78s, and that's the album, the record album, and it's got liner notes on the inside and like all the lyrics on the backside, but it's an actual like bound copy of multiple records. There's a song on each side of each 78. Joy to the World, for example. And then You just got to put the record back in the album. I'm going to keep that around. It's very Christmassy too. 1 track per side. Yeah. That's what a record album originally was. All right. Listen, my friends, this has been wonderful. Adam, I missed that. No one but the FAA has used floppy disks in decades. We should ban the idea of saving files now that the cloud saves and downloads are all that is needed in modern workflows. I keep local copies of everything I need. I don't rely on that cloud for everything, but I kind of get where you're going. Oh, these Christmas songs, I don't even know who they were sung by. Did they say? The Lynn Murray Singers. There you go. I don't know if any of the Lynn Murray singers were named Carol. Perhaps they were. Military uses floppy disks. Okay, good. Thank you, JPEG. I want to thank everybody for putting up with a variable schedule, and hope you can be okay with us. I'll make you this promise. I'll probably 90% of the time be live at 4 p.m. Eastern, but I might go live before then and stop going live closer to that than I used to. But I will always be doing this. And of course, tomorrow's the mailbag. So if you got questions or thoughts about anything, if they're specifically on an episode of DTNS, we read those in DTNS or DTNS Live. But if it's just about anything else, feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. Everybody send me pictures of your floppy drives, and I'll show them on mailbag. All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you tomorrow. Have a good rest of your Monday. Stay dry.